No, the big news is from the Daily Caller. Top Anheuser-Busch marketing executives behind a boycott are no longer employed. The top two Anheuser-Busch marketing executives who were placed on leave amid the company's shakeup no longer work for the brand. A source inside Anheuser-Busch confirmed in texts obtained by the Daily Caller on Tuesday. Group Vice President for Marketing Daniel Blake and Bud Light Marketing Vice President Alyssa Heinerscheid are gone, according to obtained text messages with the current regional head of marketing. The caller is granting anonymity to the source to discuss lengthy, fraught internal company policy. Quote, to my understanding, if we publicly announce the word fire, it opens up the potential for them to sue us. That's why we said leave of absence, the source said in text message obtained by the caller. The wholesalers would have had an absolute heyday with leadership if they didn't remove her, the source inside the company also said. To be fair, Daniel Blake was actually awesome. I think he was just caught in the crossfire, but also he did hire her, so that's a fault. Wholesalers were told they are both gone for good by leadership during in-person conversations. They already shifted all their direct reports to new people and the head of marketing. The source added in another text message obtained by the caller. I'll tell you why this is important. What we thought was going to happen. There's a hubbub, some bubble up in the press. After a couple days or a week, sales return to normal. The boycott falters. They announce they're coming back from their leave of absence or just don't announce anything and they just slide back in their positions and everything resumes and they keep on keeping on. But that's not what happened. What happened so far is that 3 months on, Bud Light sales continue to get worse. And now they've officially terminated these individuals. Starbucks just had a strike last week because they're telling people to take down pride decorations. Target's stock value is collapsing. And a bunch of other brands are reeling because, ladies and gentlemen, get woke, go broke is becoming more and more powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. You love to see it. I had a similar expectation when this all began. I thought, you know, people are going to stop drinking Bud Light for a little while, but they're going to go back to it. I think that when conservatives have tried boycotts in the past, they haven't really stuck to them. And of course, this situation is a little bit different. And one key detail I was missing is that you don't have to be a conservative to be disgusted by this kind of thing. There's a large subsection in this country which still finds a man in a dress to be very off-putting. And so even without having any kind of organization or political ideology behind it, people said, I'm not drinking that anymore.
I disagree a little bit. Mm-hmm. I think the average person does not care about a man in a dress. And that's why it was tolerated for so long. What they care about is, one, it was marketing beer to kids. And two, we're seeing more and more of the grooming stuff. Mm-hmm. Parents started seeing books in schools that were teaching children about adult explicit content. And now what's happening is it's causing a backlash that's encompassing more than just the core issue, right? So when a parent sees a book like This Book is Gay, which Ian purchased, and it teaches children how to use adult sex apps, there's a backlash and everything, it's collateral damage. So for a long time, you get a guy in a dress, what happens? The average default urban liberal or suburban liberal, whatever type, didn't care. And they say, I don't care what these people are doing in their own homes. They're liberals, right? So they're like, do whatever you want, live and let live. Then these books come in these schools. Now they see it and they associate all of it with each other. That's why now when Bud Light, it's not just this even. Bud Light sponsoring Toronto Pride, where you've got naked men, gyrating in front of children. So people see that and they're just like, all of it gone, don't want it, no, sorry, bye-bye.
I agree with you that the grooming and all of the perversity that's come into the limelight in a way that it wasn't before is also factoring into people's decision to boycott. But I would say that people have traditionally and historically still been off-put by seeing a man in a dress. I would say that was the case all the way up until now.
No, right. Like,
if brands weren't using them as mascots.
I was looking at old photos from Atlantic City in the 20s, and people are out in summer wearing suits.
Yeah.
Like, it was like, yes, people were offended by people who didn't wear the uniform. So, like, even up for a long period of time, we got to a point where a guy in drag, a person, a cross-dresser, male or female or whatever, was, for a long time, socially completely unacceptable. But with the liberal period in the past 20 or so years, they said, you live and let live. Do your thing. I don't care. But what I'm saying now is, yes, people may not like it, but they tolerate it and said, we don't care. We tolerate this. Now they're not tolerating it at all.
Yeah, no, I agree. I guess my main point is just that through that period where people were tolerating it, it wasn't because they didn't find it off-putting. They were just willing to allow it to happen somewhere else.
Right.
Yeah.
And now that it's affecting them, the pendulum is starting to swing in the other direction.
Yeah.
So then what's the end result? Are we going to see more brands back off? Did we win? Is this the get woke go broke is the brick that got pulled from the tower that causes the total collapse?
Look, I mean, I personally think it's going to depend on the brand, unfortunately. I mean, I think that if Ben and Jerry's put Dylan Mulvaney on a carton of ice cream, people wouldn't bat an eye. I mean, because that's their customer base, right?
I disagree.
I just don't know because that's how far out they are. For Bud Light and for most mainstream corporations, families especially, touching on exactly the issue that you just mentioned, which is people don't want this stuff shoved in their face. They're tired of it. And so like for 20 years, people tolerated RuPaul's drag shows and all this other stuff. Okay, well, yeah, they're off doing their own thing in their own life. But now they're doing exactly what's happening. But I think like I just with a brand that is extremely liberal like Ben and Jerry's, I don't know. With everything else, I think that you're on.
Not on Ben and Jerry's. Ben and Jerry's is a gas station brand.
Yeah.
Ben and Jerry's is like Bud Light. Sure, they do kooky things, like Resist or whatever, but no one cares when they walk in to grab a pint of ice cream. They want cookie dough and brownies. That's all they care about. So when Bud Light became political in this particular way, people were just like, nope, not buying it. And I think it's because it's now affecting them. Ben and Jerry's does a lot of political stuff, but let's be real. A guy walking into a gas station for some cookie dough ice cream doesn't care if it's Haagen-Dazs or Ben and Jerry's. Maybe he likes Ben and Jerry's because it's got bigger cookie dough chunks. That's about it. So if they started, I do think if Ben and Jerry's put Dylan Mulvaney on the carton, it would sell a lot less.
I agree. I agree with
Part
that
of what this just crossed my mind, but I think a big mistake that Bud Light made, Anheuser-Busch, is Dylan's not really. I mean, I'm not going to claim if he's trans or not, but he's an actor and he's doing camp. He's spoken outward that he's like making fun of the whole process. So it's not like a real trans woman that's like, look, we're identifying gender dysphoria. This person is like, we're in support of this community. It's Dylan Mulvaney. He's a crazy actor. He's like, so they almost mocked. They kind of mocked trans rights and transgenderism by using Dylan as their spokesmodel.
Well, this is the crazy thing to me. I think Dylan's intention is to insult trans people. Like I say it all the time. I don't know how you get anything else from that. There was like the recent video where Dylan is on the red carpet and Tony the Tiger comes out and Dylan starts panicking and freaking out. I'm like, could you imagine if a white man like put on blackface and went around and started hooting and hollering? Like, Dylan Mulvaney is a comedian and actor who has done a bunch of ridiculous things like the Price is Right video, running around and rolling around on the ground. It's like shock jock Borat level stuff for real. And so you look at these videos that Dylan's produced. Come on, let's be real. Dylan singing about having a bulge is just to insult trans people. We had that leftist guest on Friday, Phil Labonte, the other night was saying her whole thing was literally just whatever Tim says, we're gonna say the opposite, and that's what ends up happening. Dylan Mulvaney comes out, puts on this performance that's insulting and demeaning to women and trans people. We criticize Dylan for doing it, so they defend Dylan.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I don't make the same distinction that you guys do. I view all of this the same way, but I'm curious about how the transgender community or people who identify as transgender have responded to Dylan prior to the public backlash.
Well, look, there are prominent personalities who are trans who speak out against these people.
Yeah.
And there is, among transgender people, there's a left and a right as well. So I don't think you can hit it all with one broad brushstroke. You know what I mean? Well, Dylan Mulvaney clearly is a unique character that is putting on a performance and has even said this. Dylan Mulvaney did not come out and say they weren't trans, but did say they wanted to move beyond being identified as a trans person. Something to that effect.
For sure. No, I don't disagree with you guys at all that Dylan is a particularly obnoxious example. And I don't disagree that people who identify as trans have a wide variety of political views. Where I'm saying I don't draw the distinction is I think all of it's insulting to women. I think all of it is a caricature of womanhood.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm saying that Dylan's insulting trans people on top of it. Like, you can take a look at many. Look, I'll shout out Blair White and I'll shout out ContraPoints. I guess Blair is considered conservative. I don't know where Blair stands. And ContraPoints is considered liberal. They're both serious people. You can disagree with them. You can have arguments around their ideologies or the way they live their lives. But they're both serious people who present arguments. Dylan Mulvaney puts high heels on in the woods, runs around, and then sings about having a bulge, which just demeans and insults trans people. Like, it's Borat.
So that makes
Is
me
Borat.
think that maybe, Gene, you were onto something, that if companies were to go with, utilizing transgenderism as a marketing tactic, but not going for the campy, clownish people as their spokespeople, and they actually find like genuinely, trans people that are like, maybe they've been suffering or whatever, and they want to elevate that community somehow. I could see that actually not be destroying a company, maybe actually helping.
I mean, I just go back to the RuPaul. RuPaul has a show on E! Or whatever, and had a show for decades. RuPaul's Drag Race show and all these other
Bravo?
different things. And so you have these examples of this stuff happening where you have a base that is conditioned and acculturated to this lifestyle and to this stuff, which with none of it I agree with, to be clear. Quite the opposite. But when you take a brand like Bud Light, or you take something like anything, I mean, take a Ford Mustang. If Ford decided we're going to advertise their new Mustang with Dylan Mulvaney,
But didn't they?
Did Ford do an advertisement with Dylan Mulvaney?
No. They did.
Oh.
They did a Pride Rain. Who did the
Did
Pride
they
Rainbow
seriously?
truck? Yeah.
Okay,
was
so,
that
so
bad example.
somebody did do. I think someone might have done a rainbow truck, but also to be clear, there's something about the rainbow that puts a layer of abstraction over it. I don't think there was an actual picture of somebody like Dylan Mulvaney associated with it.
Yeah, in 2022.
there you go.
Ford did it.
Wow.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.